Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin in 3 Jamaican minutes. I have some housekeeping to do. Before we begin the program, first let me seek your cooperation in getting through this quickly in the next hour or so. And kindly switch off your cell phones or put them on mobile or on private or silent mode. We will begin in the next 3 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Could we stand for the national anthem of Jamaica?
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica land we love. Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the wit to cherish. Give us vision lest we perish. Knowledge sent us, Heavenly Father, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be us forever. Jamaica land we love. Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica land we
Could you remain standing for the invocation and blessings Father, we want to thank you for a wonderful day. The sun is shining, the wind is blowing, and it is indeed a wonderful day. It is World Met Day across the world, and we want to thank you for the Meteorological Service and the work that they do here in Jamaica. As we have this ceremony today, we ask that you guide, protect, lead. Have your way, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. Well, a pleasant morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is World Meteorological Day, and we are here to do something significant that we will hear more about later. But as we continue, it is indeed an honor to introduce our honorable guests this morning. And on behalf of the Met Service, I want to welcome everybody to this Bushfire Index launch. I want to thank you for your presence here. But just allow me to acknowledge the presence of some of our eminent guests. First, we want to acknowledge the presence of Senator, the Honorable Matthew Samudo, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Thanks for coming, sir. Professor Dale Belder, Principal, Pro-Vice Chancellor, UA Mona Campus. Thanks for coming, sir. Professor Tanya Stevenson, Head of the Physics Department, UA. Mr. Sean Beckford, Commissioner of the Fire Services or the Fire Brigade. Mr. Sean Martin, Fire Prevention Officer, Fire Brigade. Mr. Peter Knight, Chief Executive Officer of NEPA. Mr. Peter Clark, Managing Director, the WRA. Miss Michelle Edwards, Deputy Director, ODPEM. Mr. Robert Powell from Resurgence, the United Kingdom. Mr. Matti Erikung from the Finnish Meteorological Institutes, and Mr. Alric Mackenzie from Absolute Ventures. We also want to welcome the media, other friends, partners. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As we quickly proceed in this launch, we want to put things in context and to give an overview of the establishment of this comprehensive bushfire warning index is the Director of the Meteorological Service, Mr. Evan Thompson. The Met Service is a branch in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Ladies and gentlemen, could you put your hands together for the Director, Mr. Evan Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown, for that welcome, and a very good morning to everyone. It is great to see all of you here. I'm really very happy that all of you accepted the invitation to join us for this launch of the Bushfire Warning Index for Jamaica. We believe that it is the first in the region, and so we are happy to be pioneers once again, as we have always been here in Jamaica, and we have so many loyal partners who are joining with us on this wonderful occasion. I want to thank the Minister so much for being here, but I do want to extend the apology of the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, who was not able to be here because of duties associated with the visit of their Royal Highnesses, the Prince and the Duke and Duchess, who are here visiting with us in Jamaica. So she is absent. We also have the absence of our Director General, Dr. Sharon Morrison. We do apologize for her absence as well. And our minister very ably represents the Prime Minister, who is actually the Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation. He's also unable to be here because, of course, of other duties that he has to perform at this time. So I do apologize on their behalf. But I want to give you a brief overview of this project that we are celebrating. Actually, we are coming to the end of this project. This is a project that is, it is called the Establishment of a Comprehensive Bushfire Warning Index for Effective Bushfire Management. It's a long name. And I know there are some among us who don't like the term bushfire. You know, people from Forestry Department and so forth, they like to hear us talk about forest fires because in their opinion, what we call bush is still part of the forest. And you know, because the project has been so named, we maintain that name through the life of the project. But of course, as we establish our index, we will probably refer to it as a wildfire warning index. In your honor, Mr. Henry, of the Forestry Department. So let me go right ahead into telling you a little bit about the Bushfire Warning Index. You know, many years ago, actually in 2016, that is about that time, we started our deliberations. The Met Service has really desired to establish a bushfire warning index, an index that would help in the predicting of bushfire development. And this is because we were very successful in the implementation, the development, first of all, and implementation of what we call a drought index for Jamaica. We have one of the main pioneers of that index in Glenroy Brown, who is just taking his seat in that green shirt over there. But he is our climate service specialist, and he has been trained and has worked very assiduously in developing a drought index for Jamaica, very highly acclaimed throughout the region and even in the world, because it is another pioneering effort of the Meteorological Service here in Jamaica. That drought index has been just so successful, we thought that it was important for us to take it the next step and to move into a predictive index that speaks to the development of bushfires, of wildfires, of forest fires across Jamaica. We know that it devastates and depletes our farming areas, land, and also our forests. And so it affects even many of our communities that are here. Just this week I spoke with the managing director of the Water Resources Authority, Mr. Peter Clark, who is seated in the middle there. And he told me that there was a bushfire, there was a fire that erupted in the area close to his home, up in the hills of St. Andrew. You know, these people who live up in the hills of St. Andrew, he's one of those. So, so in his travel, he recognized that. And the fire brigade is represented by our Commissioner Stuart Beckford here. He was renamed earlier. His name is really Stuart Beckford. And he also speaks to us and tells us about the number of bushfires that we experience across Jamaica. So it was in the mind of the Met Service that we must move the drought index further in developing an index for bushfire development. And so we quite maybe I should say serendipitously, that the head of the climate studies group of MONA, Professor Michael Taylor, came and visited us in the Met Service and said, I know of this project. This is a project that is looking to develop natural disaster risk management projects in the region. The funds will be available, and we believe that your bushfire warning index is a good thing that could be developed under this project. So, with the Climate Studies Group, MONA, in tow, and we have Professor Tanisha Stevenson from the Physics Department, head of the Physics Department here with us this morning. From that Climate Studies Group that she's also heading, a concept note was developed that would help us to obtain the funding from the CDB. This is under the African, Caribbean, Pacific, European Union, CDB, Natural Disaster Risk Management Resources. And we did submit that proposal, and it was accepted. So in 2017, in July, we signed the grant agreement that allowed us the opportunity. It was in the amount of about 98,000 euros that was being made available to develop this warning index. It has been a long time. It has actually been about 5 years, almost 5 years. It should have been just about 2 years. But we had a number of delays. We had a number of extensions. And this was because of a number of things, COVID-19 being one of them. But there were also a number of other things. But bushfires occur naturally and play a role in the evolution or the devolution of our landscape, soil fertility, biodiversity. Bushfires have significant socio-economic impacts, and these are negative impacts. And we believe that something must be done about them. So we decided to develop this index. We adopted what is called the Keach-Byram Drought Index that has been developed in North America. We adapted that index to make it usable in our context, taking into consideration the climatic factors that affect us here in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. And so a lot of work was done. We brought in a specialist who was going to assist us with the development of the index. Also, we went into communities to sell the idea to communities that we knew were often at risk. And we engaged a communication company to come on board and make it much more visible in these communities, conduct surveys, and also spread the information island-wide. So you might have been hearing in the news, in the local media, information about nobody light it, because it is JAB, Jamaicans Against Bushfires. I need for you to say that with me. JAB, Jamaica Against Bushfires. So let me hear the JAB again. Right, it's jab. So we want to get a jab, not a job, but we want to get a jab, because we are the Jamaicans against bushfires. We are against it. It devastates us, and we need to get past them. We need to be able to predict that they will occur, and then be able to do something about them so that they do not occur. And that is what the index has been attempting to do. It has been developed, but it is being modified as we go along, as we learn more, and then it is being spread out across the country. I do not want to ignore our significant partners in the Jamaica Fire Brigade. The Jamaica Fire Brigade has been working with us from the inception of the project, because they are prime beneficiaries of the information and also even some of the equipment, because under this project, we were able to equip the fire brigade with computers that are being used in their data management. You probably will hear a little bit more about that later. Also backpack sprayers, and there was a vehicle-mounted pump thing that we made available. So things like those were part of this project, and then they will continue the work in informing our publics through their own mechanisms about what can be done to prevent bushfires across Jamaica. We believe that Jamaica will be impacted and will learn, will be able to mitigate these kinds of disasters. So more information is in the pamphlet that I believe most of you would have received, a pamphlet that is being circulated here that gives information about the index and, of course, our JAB, Jamaicans Against Bushfires. Again, thank you very much for being part of our program today.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Your thought-provoking overview has set the perfect platform for this ceremony. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have some critical partners who allow us to do our work and enhance the work that we do. And three of those partners are the University of the West Indies, Mona, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. And at this time, with much honor, I would like to introduce to you, or ask to bring greetings, Professor Dale Weber, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of UA Mona Campus. Ladies and gentlemen, could we welcome Professor Weber?
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, which I rename him Minister of Environment because he's my Minister of Environment and we have a lot to talk about. And that's part of why he's here today. Mr. Stuart Beckford, Commissioner of the Fire Brigade, and I'll talk about partnerships in a second. Mr. Evan Thompson, Director of the Met Service. Members of the audience, specially invited guests, members of the media, good morning to you all. Welcome to the University of the West Indies. And I say welcome and re-welcome because I'm pleased that today the Met Office with the UWI, with the partners, have been able to allow us to reopen this important aspect of the Mona campus. This undercroft has been the stage, not pun intended, for so many events where we do what we do and do it naturally. We open ourselves inside. Universities were not created just for the knowledge we have inside. We turn ourselves inside out and make ourselves available to the wider society. And opportunities such as this are available because we have an undercroft. Minister, this is only the second function we've had since the DRMA has been lifted, and I'm glad that you're here to help us use our space in this way. The University of the West Indies is built on three pillars: teaching, research, and outreach. This particular project, the jab, as Mr. Thompson says, and I don't think you mean the jab for the vaccination, Evan. The jab is the product of teaching, research, and outreach. I would like to commend Professor Taylor and Professor Stevenson, the head of our climate studies group, because they had the foresight to look at research, and while delivering that research in our teaching mode, make that research available in terms of our outreach. because answering the questions of society must be what universities are set up to do. We do this through the Vision 2030, where we're trying to have a healthy natural environment. We also, through our SDG 13, climate action, respond to what we have around us. By using our research capacity, especially our graduate students, and one graduate student here, Ms. Candice Charlton, who is a PhD student, actually published a paper from her thesis which looked at bushfires and the characterization bushfire occurrences over Jamaica using MODIS 6 Fire Achieve 2001 to 2019. If our academic pursuits can lead us to decision-making process, then, Minister, we have provided the data to make the best decisions. And that's what we are here to do. We want to find out what questions you want answered so that we can have the answers to your particular questions. We could do research anytime at the university, and academic license and academic freedom allows us to do this. I could ask research, why is the grass green? But unless you're working on getting greener cannabis, for instance, then what is the purpose of the study? So there's pure research and applied research. We want to offer both our pure and applied research to be available for the decision-making process. And this project, giving us that job, is an important part. So we're proud to be partners. We look forward to working with all our other partners and take advantage of the opportunity to share in an outreach session such as this. We're committed to continue providing the data, continue doing the research, and continue being proactive and functional within the Jamaican setting. Welcome again to the UWI Mona campus, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's exercise.
Thank you, Professor Weber. Research and adaptability working together to produce our products. We want to thank you for your involvement. We want to thank the University of the West Indies in championing this cause. At this time, I'd want to welcome our friend. He is the chief firefighter. He's our good friend at the Met Service, but he's also the commissioner of the fire brigade. Ladies and gentlemen, could you help me welcome Mr. Stuart Beckford, commissioner of the fire brigade.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start off by thanking my good friend Evan for his kind invitation. And of course, I want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister, Office of the Prime Minister, Economic Growth and Job Creation. Of course, Professor Dale Weber, my good friend, and of course, partner as well, because I will let you in on a little secret. Professor and I have been in discussion for what, 2 years now? 2 going 3, about the erection of a fire station at properties adjoining to the university. And we are pretty close to tying up a deal, and you'll hear more on that as time goes by. But this morning I'm going to be speaking specifically about the job. And as Professor Weber said, it's not the job vaccine we're talking about here now. It's Jamaicans against bushfire. And when I first saw the ad, I was wondering, where did this come from? And further digging, I recognized it was the work of the Met Service. So we in the Jamaica Fire Brigade are extremely, extremely proud to be associated with this project. Because guess what? We are very much familiar with the impact that bushfires, grass fire, forest fire, wildland fire can have on lives and livelihoods, in particularly the effects on agriculture and the environment. We have witnessed in a number of parishes, St. Elizabeth comes readily to mind, and of course in the hills of St. Andrew, which I'm looking at the hills and it's getting a little bit brown, which is of concern to us, because once it starts to get brown, fires will soon start. Our bushfire season generally run from January to March, April, maybe 5-10 years ago. But we're having bushfire season now right throughout the year. And of course, there's no doubt that the change in the environment in terms of climate change is also having an impact there. So we are particularly concerned about the effect on agriculture and of course the environment, as well as on the organization itself, because when we do have bushfires that are protracted in nature, we have to commit a lot of resources in ensuring that we put that fire out as quickly as possible to mitigate and minimize the damage that are likely to arise from such fires. So it is for this reason why we, promptly accepted or responded to the opportunity presented by our partner, the Met Service, as well as other key stakeholders such as the Forestry Department and, of course, the UWI MONA in the execution of this project, which we believe will create a tool which will allow us to be able to predict where bushfires are going to occur so that we can readily pre-position resources to get to these fires. Mr. Thompson, in his brief opening remarks, would have indicated that he would have presented us with some critical equipment, some backpacks, and of course, a skid unit. And all of these have been deployed throughout the parish of St. Elizabeth because that was our most affected parish in terms of farmland. And so we would have decided that that is where the demand was greatest. And so these equipment are being used now, Mr. Thompson, as the project continues to be rolled out. And so we would have immediately identified, that if this project is successfully executed, that it will improve our service delivery to mainly our farmers who are being impacted by bushfires. And of course, we are looking forward to the full rollout of this program. Of course, there have been some teething pains, as Mr. Thompson would have pointed out, which would have delayed the project over time. But thankfully, we are above those, we have gotten over those, and we are looking for a smooth sail into the future in terms of the utilization of this warning index. Incidentally, we saw a significant reduction in bushfires in 2021 when compared to 2020, where in 2020 we had 6,127 across the island, and for last year we saw a reduction of 2,126, or approximately 34%. So we had 4,001. The parish of St. Catherine recorded the highest number of bushfires in 2021 at 863, and this is despite that they would have saw a reduction of 17% in their bushfire response for 2021. Portland is another parish which we have had some issues with, which was very much out of the box, so to speak. Portland is normally a wet parish, and so we never generally have problems with bushfire in Portland. But for 2020, for some reason, we saw a significant spike in the number of calls we received for bushfires. In Portland, we saw 476 bushfires for Portland in 2020, and for last year, we had a 87% reduction to 52. And this was due to our intervention in terms of our fire prevention campaign. Mr. Martin is here, our Chief Fire Prevention Officer. He and his team would have gone into some of the communities to have dialogue with the farmers and persons on the issue of slash and burn and how do we clear lands and clear it safely without starting a fire. So it must be highlighted that the capability of the brigade to map these incidents as well as manage data relative to them was realized through the provision of devices, as Mr. Evan Thompson pointed out, from critical stakeholders. We have some desktop which we have deployed to our fire stations, trembles, to do, to collect the data. We have persons who have been trained in inputting that data into the system. We got 20 backpacks. As I said, those are deployed in the parish of St. Elizabeth, and one skid unit, which is a tank mounted on a pickup, which is for rapid response where we have an incident. So overall, the Jamaica Fire Brigade is excited about the opportunities we have had so far, and we look forward to the strengthening of the relationship formed as we seek to improve the island's disaster resilience. So once again, we want to express how excited and grateful we are to be a part of this very worthwhile venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Beckford. And I hope that our continued partnership will help to prevent and reduce the impact of, or the negative impacts of bushfire on our country and our economy. There is a very special lady that is here with us this morning. She is the Deputy Director of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. She's a part of us now because we work on so many projects in terms of disaster risk reduction. And at this time, to bring greetings, I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Michelle Edwards from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. Ms. Edwards, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Honorable Minister, Professor Weber, Mr. Evan Thompson, colleagues, stakeholders, friends all, good morning. And it is such a beautiful day, and I'm so happy to be here under this undercraft. Let me begin by saying how very pleased it is for me to be here with you on World Meteorological Day, number one, and to bring greetings on behalf of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management and our Acting Director General, Mr. Richard Thompson. Now, our world has become very demanding, and we have to use our resources in the best ways, and we cannot underestimate the vulnerabilities of our system structures, people, and our economies. Now, disasters happen and they continue to happen, and the disaster risk landscape continues to be dynamic. And disasters, they affect everything: people, economies, properties, infrastructure. And we are faced with diverse risks, from climate to technological to biological to epidemics and pandemics. And, we have to constantly find ways and modes of finding smart solutions in which we examine our systems and measures that we can take to have early warnings. So what caused us to be here today? The threat of bushfires is real. It affects communities, they affect agricultural areas, and the coming out of the work and the collaboration with the National Meteorological Service and the Jamaica Fire Brigade and others, we have taken another step and achieved another milestone in strengthening our disaster resilience, determining thresholds within the meteorological areas or parameters, coupled with environmental factors that will assist us in indicating a possible bushfire warning. What is it? Wildfire warning index. Okay, so we know that the bushfire index, it is a new tool to provide the necessary information that will inform communities and emergency responders to the threat of these types of fires. And we can now add this to the suite of tools that are used to support decision making for disaster management, to protect life and property, and to manage complex systems of disaster situations. So this can be supported by having systems in place to provide the information of warnings that we need to plan and to make decisions. And the early warning systems available locally will strengthen the country's ability to prepare and respond to hazards. So today, I want to congratulate the National Meteorological Service, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, in this critical step that we have taken to strengthen our linkages and information for warning and for response, and also for mitigation measures, as the index will also help us to be proactive. So again, I just wish to say congratulations and thank you very much, and all the very best in your endeavors.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. And indeed, early warning, early action, that is what we are working towards in the Bushfire Index. Now, we're going to change the scene somewhat, and we're going to have a demonstration of how the tool actually works. And at this time, there are two gentlemen from the Meteorological Service. We have Mr. Romain Robinson. He is a GIS specialist. And we have Mr. Glenroy Brown. He is a climate service specialist. And these gentlemen are going to give us a description, a brief presentation, and a discussion on how this Bushfire Index actually works. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Romain Robinson and Mr. Glenroy Brown from the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. So if you could turn your attention to our screen. While we're waiting on that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Alec McKenzie from Absolute Ventures, our communication specialist. We want to thank you for the work you're putting in, and we want to acknowledge your presence here. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Romain Robinson. I am one of the GIS analysts with the Met Service of Jamaica, and today this presentation is going to be an overview of what the Met Service has been doing so far with the bushfire system and technology, the bushfire warning index and the bushfire forecast. Now, the bushfire index is a GIS tool, so it's all based in geographic information systems, and it is used to make estimates and forecasts of the locations of bushfires across the island. The index uses the rainfall data that the Met Service has collected. It uses temperature data also from the Met Service, and we've incorporated soil type as well as land use and vegetation data to determine the risk of fire across the island. And all this data is processed using ArcMap, and I'm going to give you an idea of what the tools used are in just a moment. So the first one we use is the inverse distance weighting tool, and persons who are familiar with GIS will know this. It is a tool that uses information that is nearby to determine what could possibly happen at a possible location. We also use a reclassification tool. So we take our soil type and we change the parameters of the soil type to reflect what rainfall across that area could do to the soil type, what temperature across the area could do to the soil type, and these can help us to assess what the soil moisture would be in the case of a sporadic bushfire. We use an interpolation tool on both the rainfall and the temperature, so we're using near distance to make estimates of the information that we don't have in the index. And the reclassification tool is also used for the soil type as well as for the vegetation. A weighted overlay tool compares how each of these parameters is likely to affect this sporadic nature of a bushfire, or the likelihood that a bushfire does actually occur. And the final model is developed in ArcMap, and it frames the parameters spatially and gives you a visual representation. The model is saved, and then individual iterations are generated by month. Currently, we're doing it bi-monthly, so every month there are 2 maps, 2 estimates, each for half the month, so the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks. If you take a look at the screen, you'll notice what one of the fire forecasts is actually going to look like. The scale of colors that you're seeing in the legend goes from very high risk, which is the warmer colors, the bright reds, and then we have very low risk, which is the cooler colors or the greens. Now, the information displayed here is for the period between January 16 and January 31 of this year. And we can notice that in the areas where we tend to have higher rainfall, especially in January, the model is attempting to downplay risk, which might not necessarily be the case, but it means that if you do have rainfall being weighted more highly than temperature, especially in January where temperatures are not particularly high, we're going to be seeing that the bushfire index is warming up to the rainfall and then reducing the risk in the areas where rainfall is most likely to be higher. As for soil type, most of central, that's St. Anne, parts of central and St. Anne as well as parts of Trelawney tend to have, that's where your cockpit country is as well. And a lot of the soil type in this area is actually quite conducive to bushfires when all else isn't considered. So if you erase the rainfall, if you erase the temperatures, and you look at just that one parameter, that soil type within that general area, the bushfire index is starting to flare up into the oranges and the reds. Across western portions of the island, we're looking at cooler colors in Westmoreland and parts of Hanover. But we also have a slightly higher risk in eastern sections of Hanover as well as sections of Westmoreland. And one particular challenge that we did have with this index is in the parish of Manchester, because Manchester is more or less one of the hillier parishes, and it also tends to have one of the better drainage systems, or at least the better drainage across the island. So rainfall in itself tends to not have that significant of an impact. Now, I did an overlay of information that came from the fire brigade in January. The fire brigade supplies us with information on where individual fires have occurred within the month. So wherever you're seeing that little orange, yellow dot, that represents an area where a fire was reported and the fire brigade has actually attempted to put out that fire. So this is all real data. And then underneath that, we have the medium to high risk areas in January. The medium to high risk areas would be from the parameters going between 5 and 10. So these would be all the areas where orange and red were on the previous map. And you can notice that the model has done extremely well in sections of southern St. Elizabeth and southern Manchester. It's done fairly well in parts of Hanover and parts of Westmoreland. I particularly like that outline along Clarendon, going from north-south between about Maypen going down to Rocky Point. That seems to be a very fair, very accurate assessment of what was going on. Most of St. Thomas was missed, so we're going to have to work on that. And a lot of St. Andrew was also missed. And one of the reasons St. Andrew was missed is that St. Andrew's vegetation is not exactly what the vegetation type across most of the other parts of the island are. It's more corporate. We have a lot of buildings and so forth. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to the model with regards to urbanized areas, even though urbanized areas technically should not be having bushfires. Now, in February of this year, a drier month than January, slightly higher risk across more places, with the exception of parts of Portland. Still a very wet month for Portland. We did have rainfall amounts. I think the highest I saw was somewhere between 650 and about 700 millimeters in inland Portland in February. So we still have high amounts of rainfall occurring across Portland. Also across Westmoreland, I do see that there was slightly more rainfall in this month than typically, or at least slightly more rainfall in February 2022 than there was in the rainfall pattern that was used to make the prediction, which was February 2021. So with that in mind, the rainfall pattern is going to have to be adjusted going forward to allow for these small changes every 2 months. But we still have fairly good, or at least fairly high risk areas across the sections of the island that the previous month had, which would be St. Thomas, parts of Trelawney, as well as parts of Manchester. Now, when the forecast is disseminated, it looks something like this. This is a printout. I did both months, well, the 1 month period between the 16th of January and the 15th of February. If you look at the bottom left, you see the areas where the very high risk across the island are highlighted, and we go by parish. So for St. Anne, we have Monique, Greer Park, sections of Walkerswood, and adjoining areas, and in St. Catherine, we have Ewaton, Swansea, and adjoining areas. The output of this also includes what the fires across the island, well, the fire count. And I'm going to be using this to assess whether or not we're having less fires per year as a result of the index. So if you look at the bottom right, it shows the fire count by parish. There's an absence of data for a lot of St. Catherine for both months. But the areas which are most highly represented, Clarendon as well as Westmoreland, also show favorable matching with what is actually going on the map. So we're seeing some positivity as far as the model is concerned. And that's the end of the presentation.
Just burned down everything,
causing loss of land, lives and livelihoods.
Everybody on this side lost their coffee plant. Animals die in the fire. Some people lost their houses.
and you have to start all over back again.
Putting yourself, your home and your family at risk is not worth slash and burn.
I would like to say to people, when the time is hot, do not light fire.
Matter of fact, you shouldn't even light no fire at all.
There was more worry for the people of rural St. Andrew last week following another major bushfire.
As you can see, it's stretching around, so I hope the fire brigade gets here.
By nightfall, the situation got worse as strong winds pushed the flames.
The fire was burning on the hills for about a week before it reached here. And we used to get up sometime in the night and look how far the fire is, because we know it when come. So on the morning, I went walking on the road, looking to see how far the fire is. So when I reach a certain part of the road and hear the fire coming up the gully, I turn back and start to run.
I have a close neighbor, and I call the person, the answer, and the person said to me, Claudine, run as fast as you can. And when you reach up to the gate, call the fire brigade. And I did run as fast as I could. And by the time I reached further on the road, there was a fire.
This fire was all around. I never experienced such a fire in my life.
The fire brigade came pretty fast, but it could have come down here by the farm. So as far as where it could out, that's where it was. But the fire didn't stop here. The fire went on all the way to other people's premises and burned it down.
The last banana plant, coffee.
I lost about 2 acres of coffee, banana, and fruit trees and all of that.
Majority of the calls that we get generally fires affect farmers. Once an individual comes across a fire, it is your duty to call the Jamaica Fire Brigade immediately. Don't wait until the fire gets out of control, then you are going to call for assistance. Once you call the Jamaica Fire Brigade in any kind of an emergency, we are out within a minute of that call coming in. Jamaicans Against Bushfires. This is something that all of us have to get on board with. And that is where the Met Service Bushfire Warning Index program really comes in. The aim is to try to predict as much as possible where bushfires in general will take place. The Met Service has been on board with us, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, for a very long time. They have provided the hardware and software as well. We provide information to them. They use that information in the system, and then they send back alerts to the Jamaica Fire Brigade, which helps us to pre-position equipment, because generally you want to have the best equipment at the best possible sites to ensure that if a fire should occur, the response will not only be quick, but it will be efficient.
I believe the Bushfire Warning Index is a good thing for farmers. That will alert us how to prevent fire, how to go about it in a meaningful way. I think it's a good thing.
It's excellent, because it's 6 years now since this fire. And if this bushfire warning index training was before, then we wouldn't have so many damage. And I know other farmers would be interested.
Utilize the Bushfire Warning Index to ensure that your land is low risk for bushfires. Contact the Meteorological Service of Jamaica at 876-929-3700 for more information and alternatives you can utilize.
My warning to all you farmers, take care of your land. Be careful how you light fire and leave it.
Put the grass to dry. You don't light it. Just put it to dry and let the grass itself becomes the manure for the grass.
All right, and that was a brief presentation of what the bushfire index will do. And bushfire is real. I think it was one day last week I was on the way to the airport, and when I was at the Harbor View roundabout, the shrubs, the bushes were actually on fire, and I saw the fire brigade in action. So bushfires, it is windy, anything can cause a combustion, and it is a tool that we really, really, really need. And at this time, Mr. Glenroy Brown, he's going to come and he's going to show us how the tool actually works. But before he comes, there are two gentlemen here who would have added to the process as well. The index and the warning is also on our Smart Alert, and those are tools that would have been developed from the Finnish Meteorological Institute. And we also have a project called BreathCat with resurgence, and those persons would have also come on board to add their expertise to the development of this index. And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Matti Errataken from the Finnish Meteorological Institute, and my good friend Robert Powell from Resurgence, both consultants on this project. Could you put your hands together? Because without their help, it would not have come to this day. So at this time, Mr. Glenroy Brown from the Met Service will give a demonstration of the tool. Mr. Brown.
Morning, everyone. All right, so this is just a quick demonstration of our Smart Alert tool. You might ask, what is our Smart Alert tool? Well, it's a web application that can be installed on your mobile phone or any computer, and it allows you to get early warning information, just like the bushfires. So I work very closely with Mr. Robinson, and when there is a warning for bushfire, this is what it would look like. So on your mobile phone, you will have this application that you can see here on your screen. And what it does is give you information about where the fires, the potential for bushfire will be located. In this demonstration, we have it in the parish of Clarendon. You can actually click on the notification on the icon on the screen, and you will get more information, like it will direct you to our meteorological website to get more information. It will give you a valid period as well as to how long the potential for this bushfire warning will last and the areas that are prone to the bushfire. Now remember, this is a web application, so it can be installed on your mobile phone very easily, as well as it can be used on any electronic device with internet access. Right? So the process requires your location, so it monitors your location, and it not just give information about the bushfires. So if you notice at the bottom, there are different warning levels. So the ones that are in red are very dangerous warnings, and it also provides a comprehensive list of all the warning messages that are the Met Service will send out, right? And you'll see them there, not just for bushfires, but the Smart Alert is coming with more new features in a couple of months, and I can tell you, you'll be able to access this product from your mobile phone with just the click of 3 simple steps. All right, so this is just a quick demonstration of the Bushfire Early Warning Index operating on top of the Smart Alert, which is our common alerting protocol, which you can get all the warning messages from the Met Service. All right, thank you.
And just to make it easier for you, if after the launch by the minister, you want to leave your WhatsApp number or contact at the back, you can have the app immediately, okay? All right. Mr. Brown, Just a question, and this will be available to all persons immediately, right?
Yes, we are currently working on the application for it to be available to all persons, so you can get it installed. Just like how you will install an application on your mobile phone, we have that simple three-step process to get it installed on your phone as well. So it doesn't matter if you have an Android or an iPhone, it's available on all devices.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Welcome. All right, good, good. All right, so at this time we will have our keynote address and we'll have the actual launch. And it is my privilege, my honor to introduce to you Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda. He is the minister responsible for all things meteorology, all things that has to do with the environment. And at this time, could we stand, ladies and gentlemen, and can we welcome Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Senator Samuda.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind welcome. I firstly need to start by apologizing. It is not my usual modus operandi to be late to functions. It was indeed unavoidable as I know in life we all have a boss, and my boss actually called me this morning and split my time. So there was a bit of a challenge. So firstly, I hope you accept my sincere apologies. It's not how we seek to conduct our affairs. Allow me to start by simply acknowledging that protocols have been acknowledged and persons are all part of the meteorological family. It is my first time as minister to participate in this event, but I'm very encouraged by the work that is being done by the Met Office and by other agencies, certainly within and under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. I've never been accused of being tall, so hopefully this will assist. All right. I'm happy to join you today as we observe World Meteorological Day and to bring greetings in keeping with the theme for the day, which is early warning and early action. This theme has been selected to highlight the vital importance of the hydrometeorological and climate information for disaster risk reduction, as well as the work being done by the World Meteorological Organization and our own meteorological service in making this information available. The work of both organizations is even more relevant today, and in the face of a changing climate, ladies and gentlemen, climate change is a real and present danger. It is not tomorrow's problem, it is indeed today's problem. Unless critical and urgent action is taken to curb greenhouse gas emissions, we will continue to experience increasing temperatures as well as more frequent and intense weather events such as hurricanes, droughts, and floods. We live in a world that is quite unlike the one that our parents and grandparents grew up in. Advancements in technology that were unheard of 3 decades ago have enabled us to live more comfortably. But the cost of our comfort is measured in the volume of greenhouse gas emissions, including carbon dioxide. It is measured in the rate of deforestation, the levels of pollution that affects our water sources, and the rate at which some of our species are disappearing. The cost of our comfort is measured in the number of temperature records that are being broken during any given year, the length of drought conditions that we experience, and the flooding that occurs when it rains. It is measured in the threats to our food and water security, the prevalence of pests, as well as new and emerging strains of disease. When drought ravages our crops, there are outbreaks of bushfires. We all pay higher prices at the market. And when floods due to hurricanes or intense rainfall damage our roads, buildings, and infrastructure, the country stands the cost of rebuilding. As such, the importance of the meteorological service as a science cannot be overemphasized. And the ability to forecast current and future weather events may help to preserve lives and livelihoods, particularly in the least developed countries and in all SIDS. I know that over the years, Mr. Evan Thompson and his team at the Meteorological Services have been working tirelessly in delivering weather and climate products and services with the aim of preparing Jamaicans for whatever meteorological hazards may come our way, thereby safeguarding and securing lives and property. Additionally, adding predictability to how we manage our affairs. One of the projects now being undertaken by the Met Service is the Building Resilience Through Climate Adaptation Technologies project. Its main aim is to improve weather information services, particularly for communities and sectors that are vulnerable to high-impact weather, and we welcome our partners in this project from the Resurgence in United Kingdom and the Finnish Meteorological Institute, who are with us today. Thank you for joining us. Through stakeholder workshops geared at co-designing weather forecasts and severe weather warnings, the project will make the current range of information, products of the service more relevant and easily accessible to users. The project will also assist the Met Service to launch its Jamaica Weather app, which will be configured for local conditions using automated processes facilitated by an upgraded weather forecasting system. We also look forward to the commissioning of the new Doppler radar in Coopers Hill that is being implemented by the Improving Climate Data and Information Project Management Project, which is managed by the PIOJ. We had hoped that we would be ready for commissioning this morning, but man proposed and God disposed, as they say. But in very short order, I know the Prime Minister himself is particularly excited to commission this radar. Today, we are, however, launching another critical product that has been developed by the Met Service under the project for developing a comprehensive bushfire warning index for effective bushfire management. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a stark, unquestionable correlation between dry weather conditions, high temperatures, and the breakout of bushfires island-wide. But the Met Service is taking this seriously. Between 1996 and 2005, damage and losses in agriculture due to bushfires were estimated at some US $700,000. In 2014, RADA reported over 1,600 hectares of land valued at over US $8 million were lost or damaged to drought and fires, with more than 16,000 farmers affected. There were outbreaks of over 7,200 bushfires in 2015. Currently, these fires account for 63% of the total number of emergency calls to the Jamaica Fire Brigade. I realize the system is putting you under quite a bit of pressure. The brigade has already benefited from the desktop computers that are assisting in the management of data regarding fire incidences, handheld GPS units for proper geolocating of fires, backpack sprayers, and a vehicle-mounted 200-gallon skid unit for extinguishing small bushfires. This project also includes the monitoring of pilot sites in parishes prone to wildfires, use of a common alerting protocol, a public education and awareness campaign that has been named JAB, which I quite like, by the way. I think it's very creative, so credit to you and your communications team. These interventions are instrumental to our efforts to become climate resilient, to convert scientific knowledge into practical guidance for our climate-sensitive sectors such as agriculture, water, health, and disaster mitigation. I wish to commend the Met Service, our partners who are all here with us today, in particular the CDB, which was instrumental in providing the grant funding from the ACP EU CDB Natural Disaster Risk Management Resources, and many others for rising to the challenge, and urge them to continue their efforts to build capacity and implement additional climate services that translate into practical actions that will benefit us all. Ladies and gentlemen, on this World Meteorological Day, I officially launched Jamaica's Bushfire Warning Index and urge everyone to recommit to adapting to and mitigating the impacts of climate change, which include wildfires, and to take the necessary steps to protect lives and property. I believe this is one step that the government can be proud of. It is a step that I am certainly proud of, and I thank all who have contributed to this becoming a reality. Thank you.
So at this time, I would want to invite Professor Weber, Commissioner Beckford, Director Evan Thompson. We're going to launch it officially, and he's going to launch it. All right? Hold for a minute.
Yes, finally. After so many years, but it was still gone through.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for the official launch of the Bushfire Index, where the minister is going to click and he's going to launch it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just touch the screen. Excellent. Put your hands together. It tells you the bushfire. Go ahead, you want to.
Bushfire warning for Clarendon, valid from 22nd of March, 7 p.m. And active for the next 1 day, 7 hours and 18 minutes. Bushfire warning is now in effect for Clarendon. Please see map for specific locations.
And it is issued by the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. So we are live, we are online, and we are ready to go. We want to thank you, Team Minister, for being a part of this exercise. You will get further information where you can locate the app. If you want a link via WhatsApp, we can also provide that as well. But I am excited. I feel good that there is a product out there that the farmers across Jamaica, the entire Jamaica, can come and see that there is a bush fire warning and index that works well. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Have a good day, and refreshments are served at the back. Thank you, and have a good day.
Jamaicans Against Bushfires. Jab, plan, protect, prevent.
Matthew, what the boy they do?
Check out the front. He was in class.
Matthew!
Yes, Daddy.
School done?
Yes, Daddy. Teacher just done the class.
All right. You remember sending me the dogs if you come and we clear the field? We chopped the bush them 3 days ago, so we have a light it today.
Daddy, in agriculture class today,